3, 2, 1. And we're live. How's everybody doing out there? This is Coach Brad Sims. I'm here with some ideas on how you can build your own home gym. Now, it did occur to me that not everybody is going to be spending money right now, since we're all waiting for money from the government. I wonder if that's going to happen or not. Some of you may already have some pretty cool home gyms already. And some of you may be thinking about, once coronavirus is over and I'm ready to start doing my part to help the economy again, what would I put in my ideal gym? What would I like to have? What would I like to see? So what I did is I organized this into some categories. We're going to start with primary use. Brian, how's it going? So primary use equipment. So something, in my mind, primary use is going to be something that can function as more than one training style. Okay, so for example, strength training, possibly endurance training. Maybe I want to get my cardio or spike up my metabolism. What type of equipment would I use for that? So we're going to start with the ones that in my experience I've seen have the most variety of exercises that can be done with them. For starters, a sandbag. I'm going to show you, I have some of this equipment in my little tiny office here, so I'll show you. So a sandbag. Now, this can mean different things to different people. If you're a Spartan, you might have seen a Spartan pancake. Right, here's a 30-pound pancake. It's kind of oval. It mushes around, changes its shape a little bit, but it also has no handles on it. So if you want grip training, which a lot of you Spartans do, doing exercises and holding this or trying to pinch grip it is going to certainly challenge your forearm strength and therefore your grip strength. Now, that's just one style of pancake. I'm going to mention three. So we have regular sandbag, we have pancake, and we have something called a rec bag. I don't own a rec bag, so I can't show you that, but it's essentially one long kind of rectangular bag. It's not filled with sand. It's some sort of proprietary stuffing. I believe it's some sort of asphalt rubber chips. I'm not positive on that. But it has just two long orange handles, like single loops on either end. And it's a little bit like Bulgarian bag. Sorry, that's one other one I forgot. The Bulgarian bag and the rec bag are similar in style. So for instance, holding the two handles, you're gonna have trouble visualizing it, but the bag would sort of dip down here. You can hold the handles and you can swing it around and then help with your shoulder mobility. You can let it hang in front of you. You can flip it up and clean it, and you can press it overhead. You can swing it onto your back and hold the handles here and kind of squat or lunge with it. So there's a couple varieties of exercises with that. Now, rec bags, I think let's talk about budget a little bit. Rec bags start around 80, 90, 100 bucks. Last I saw, I could be wrong. And I'm sure there's specials and things like that, but they're typically a little bit more expensive, and you can't vary the weight of a rec bag. Pancake, you can vary the weight somewhat. You can add more sand. You can take some sand out. You just have to sort of turn it inside out. There's a special little funnel, sort of like a fabric funnel, that you can dump some sand out. And with a Spartan pancake, you don't want to completely fill it with sand, because then it's too hard to grip. And you actually want the quality of the sand being able to shift around a little back and forth, because what that does is it creates more muscle activation, because the weight is never completely centered in the bag, if that makes sense. It's shifting a little more to the right, a little more to the left. It moves as you move. So it makes normal exercises slightly more challenging. And if you're loading it on your torso, maybe you're holding it on your shoulder, for example, it's going to demand more from your core musculature to help, because your body's going to try to not fall over, right? Your body wants to always try to balance. Incidentally, fun fact, we are born with 2 fears. Anyone know what those fears are? Anyone? Voodoo economics? That's my Ben Stein impression. So the 2 fears we are born with: fear of falling and fear of loud noises. And everything else, those are important to our survival as infants. Everything else we learn. I always found that fascinating. So when I go to program, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I'll come right back, I promise. When I go to program core training, first of all, I don't think of just the abs as the core. You got to consider the core as a cylinder. And it's not just the abs. It's not just the back. Glutes are part of it. Your hips are part of it. Pelvic floor is technically part of it. There's a lot going on there. Fry. Yes, Brian got my reference. Thank you, Brian. Fry. Bueller. So, coming back to the equipment part of it. So when programming for core training, you might want to think about something that, without you having to do anything special, it has this internal material that is shifting around. So sandbag works very, very well for that. I'll show you the sandbag that I have. Okay. This one is called the Ultimate Sandbag, also known as a DVRT, or Dynamic Variable Resistance Trainer. These are a little bit less expensive than a rec bag or a Bulgarian bag. I want to say they start closer to $50, $60, $70. And this, I've tried 3 different brands that all looked like this. So 2 handles on the top, center handle on the side, handles on each end. And then if you flip this way, there are 2 handles that are in line with each other. So this allows you to hold it in various ways, which makes some exercises harder or easier. But it certainly gives you a ton of variety. Somewhere I've got a list of exercises you can do with a sandbag. And this is not even a complete list, but I've got... Oh, that's not it. I don't think I have that list in front of me. I thought I did. That's okay. I'm sure I have it online. But I'd be willing to bet good money. You can do at least 30 plus exercises with this single piece of equipment. If you wanted to, because it uses smaller internal bags that seal with, like, they over seal themselves with Velcro, and they kind of wrap around to prevent any leakage of sand. Eventually, it's still going to leak sand somewhat. If I unzip this, you're going to see like all this dust inside. But think of it as a bag within a bag. You can add bags to it, so you can increase the weight. It's modular. Thank you. Modular is the word I'm trying to think of. Would a duffel, Glenn, question. Yes, Michelle, the sandbag in CrossFit. Does it look like this, Michelle? Kind of like this style? Okay, Glenn, would a duffel bag with odd-shaped textbooks work as a swap for a sandbag? Almost certainly, yeah. And right now, you want to think about, how can I get a workout in, find equipment around my house, and not have to spend any extra money? That's the most ideal condition, right? So the more handles that are on the duffel bag, the better. But typically you'll have at least 1 or 2 or 3 handles on a duffel bag. So absolutely, you could stuff it with books. I'm tempted to say small cans of soup, but certain exercises, that's going to land on your body really hard. I don't think you're going to want metal soup cans in there. Although Small soup can does have a decent bit of weight to it. I think it's like 1.5 pounds per can, something like that. You'd have to add a lot of them. Anyway, the sand is heavy, but it's actually softer if it does hit your arm. So there's an exercise called a clean. Glenn, you'll know this one with a kettlebell. But a clean, we would dip down, pull up, and I wrap the bag over the top of my arms. Now, if I do this cool little scoop motion you just saw, it actually doesn't whack my arm very hard at all. It's kind of a special technique you would use for the clean to reduce pain and allow for a little bit more weight without pounding your arm every time you bring up the bag. So, let me steer back for a second. So, pancake, rec bag, sandbag. So, the sandbag, as I was saying, is modular. You can remove smaller sandbags from inside it, zip it up, and now it's like a little bit lighter. There is a brand that I started with called Skills. It's just abbreviated SKLZ. And Skills is more of an economy brand. Great for starting out with if you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you want something to get you started that will allow you to do those 30, 40 exercises. You don't have to change equipment. So Skills is the brand. I think it was around $45, and it comes with 4 internal bags. Each one can hold a maximum of, I think, 10 pounds. So you could do up to 40 pounds, if my math is good. Or you could take, assuming they're all filled to their max capacity of 10, let's say, you take one out, now it's 30 pounds. So you can pretty easily unzip the bag, put it in, rezip it, and there's a Velcro seal over the zipper. Again, they really try to prevent sand leakage on these. So, sandbag is a really, really great option because lots of different exercises, single piece of equipment, and you can adjust the weight. Adjusting the weight is important at some point in your workout because you're going to plateau, because the general adaptation principle states that muscles need to be exposed to a certain type of stress and a certain amount of stress before they adapt and grow stronger. It's just how the human body reacts to stresses from a muscle standpoint. So that being said, a lot of flexibility, a lot of options with that piece of equipment. So that's the sandbag. Ultimate sandbag, I think I mentioned, is a bit more expensive. It's just a different brand, but it does offer a lot of handles, which are important for that one. Anyway, so I'm thinking primary use, things that we can train strength with, things that we can train cardio with. Another great one is, of course, Glenn, say it for me, the kettlebell. Yes. My buddy Glenn is a longtime kettlebell fanatic. What's up, Antonio? I just saw you logged on here. Good to see you, man. So kettlebells. Do I have one in my office? I think everyone has seen one of these. But we may have some beginners out there who have seen it, maybe didn't know what it was called. So this is a kettlebell. This is a 25-pound bell, and there are probably at least 30 or so exercises you can do with this because it allows variations on any standard exercise. Kettlebells allow you to modify Olympic lifts into something a little more manageable and easier to learn, in my opinion. So things like a clean and press, something that would work the shoulder, challenge the core. Swings, you'll see people doing kettlebell swings through their legs and up and out in front of them, sometimes overhead. But the kettlebell, however, is not modular like the sandbag. I'm not saying that's bad. If that's your choice, get the kettlebell. But if you do get a kettlebell, my recommendation would be to get several different weights. So this one's 25 pounds, as I mentioned. You would probably want like a 10, a 20, and a 30. Like that kind of, maybe a 10 pound, 12 pound spread between each weight. And that would allow, so 3 kettlebells would allow quite a variety of workouts. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking about one called the Gunslinger. 25 pounds is just way too heavy. But if I get a little lighter one, like a 10 pounder, I can start in a bicep curl position, push this all the way out. Now, I'm 6 foot tall, so I have a pretty long arm. And for me to hold this and lower it real slowly is definitely a challenge to my deltoid, my shoulder muscle. That can only be done with a reasonably light weight. Like, I don't care if you're Schwarzenegger. Even Schwarzenegger probably can't do more than 20 pounds because you're talking about a really long lever. Here's your, I don't know if you guys know leverage, basic physics principles. Here's the fulcrum or the pivot point. The longer the lever with the weight at the end, the harder the work is to sustain support at this fulcrum. If, however, I shorten my arm, my lever just got much, much shorter. Now the move feels super easy. It's not quite the same move, but I think you're getting the analogy. So kettlebell, again, not modular like this sandbag, but certainly offers a ton of options on exercises. Couple off the top of my head, we're looking at clean and press, swing through the legs. You can hold it here and do lunges or squats. You can hold it overhead and do lunges or squats. That's very, very hard. That's an advanced movement. The Gunslinger one I just showed you, if you really wanted to, you could bicep curl it. And the snatch, that's another one. So certain movements that you won't see traditional bodybuilders using, these are more moves that were adapted for Olympic lifting. Clean, snatch, jerk, clean and press. Just a couple examples. Moving on. Okay, TRX. So TRX is a brand, but essentially a suspension trainer. Nylon straps, they have adjustable lengths. I'll show you my set. Okay. You have a door anchor that may or may not come with yours, but some way to attach it over a door. You close the door and you pull it tight, and then you can put your body weight on this. So it allows for body weight exercise, but it gives you both the feeling of resistance because you're using gravity to your benefit, and yet what a lot of people find when they use TRX or suspension trainers for the first time. Sorry, I didn't show you the handles on the other side. All right, so there's 2 handles and there's nylon loops. Okay, so you can hold here, or for people who have smaller hands, you have the option of holding the fabric part. You can also do movements for core training, upper body strength, things that would make you put your feet through here, perhaps. There's a bunch of plank variations you can do. And TRX, I own a training manual for a TRX that I got years ago. Hey, Laura, how are you, dear? I'm going to like that. Good to see you. So the training manual for the TRX has, I think, over, don't quote me on this, but probably over 60 exercises. Plus TRX gives you a lot of exercises, if you want to call them that, but stretches, mobilization techniques. There are a ton of different stretches you can do. So for people who have been working out a lot and they just have tight muscles, or you're over 40 and your muscles are getting tight because of postural habits or stress or what have you, the TRX and similar strap devices can certainly help you do a lot of nice stretches that feel pretty good. That's not necessarily something you could do with a kettlebell or a sandbag. So that's possibly an advantage. Maybe you get one of each, right? Maybe get a sandbag, maybe a TRX. Okay, moving on. the physio ball. The do I have one in? I don't have one in here. The big yoga ball, physio ball, stability ball. There's a bunch of different names for it. This is a great piece of equipment to have. It seems so simple. And unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that are like, oh, that's for girls to work out with. Baby. I could show you so much stuff. You practically be crying when I'm done showing you exercises on this ball. The trick is to get the right diameter of ball. So most of them will start at around 55 centimeters. I know I hate metric too. 65 is available, and there's a 75, and they usually base it on your height. So if you're like 5'10" or taller, a 75 centimeter ball, which is I think about the biggest you can get, is probably the one you want. If you're a smaller person, a little more petite or female, maybe under 5'5", then you might want like a 55 centimeter ball. But there are quite a few exercises you can do with this for people who have pain when squatting. There's a way to put the ball behind your back, lean the ball and your body against a wall, and allow the ball to roll down your back as you go into a squat. If you push your hips back, you also take pressure off of your knees, and it generally will allow you to squat with less or no pain. That's just one example, but there are a lot of other exercises you can do with this. And the best part, here's why I like the physio ball. You can go to the Five Below store. Walmart probably sells them for like $10. Five Below sells them for $5. I've gotten them there. In fact, I've bought probably 8 different ones from Five Below. They're super inexpensive. They last a really long time. The only thing is you can't leave them in contact with a wood surface. There's something in the rubbery plastic material that over time reacts with wood, and it would like stick to it. But other than that, good thing to have. They do take up a little bit more space because you're not going to deflate them and re-inflate them. That's a pain. But really good to have and super inexpensive. Anyone can afford $4 or $5 for a stability ball. I could take you through a whole workout with just that. In fact, I think that'll be one of the free workouts I do in the next couple of days. Okay, physio ball. Pull-up bar. Cannot forget the pull-up bar. Pull-up bars are usually $20 new at Walmart. You might even be able to buy a pre-owned one from someone on Facebook Marketplace or something, or Craigslist, whatever. And anyone who's tried a pull-up or pull-up variation knows how freaking hard pull-ups are to do. It's one of the hardest, if not the hardest, body weight exercise. Just you and gravity. And while men might have a slight advantage without training, they might have slightly more upper body strength for pulling. And generally, humans are better at pulling movements than they are at pushing. And yet, pull-ups are so freaking hard to do. But it is still one that should be in your repertoire. The pull-up bar can not only be used for pull-up practice, but it could also you could attach a TRX to the pull-up bar and do a whole other series of exercises as well. And it's very inexpensive. It's definitely worth having in your equipment list. Excuse me, 1 second. Okay. Next up. Where'd it go? Oh. Okay. Another one for primary use. Although there are a lot of variations of jumping rope, jump ropes are not expensive to buy. There are ones out there that are, in my opinion, really overpriced at $40, $50, $60. And I'm not talking about weighted jump ropes. This one I have, I like this brand. This is Garage Fit. Got it on Amazon. It was $7. The best part is it comes with a carry bag. It came with a whole extra cable if this one ever breaks. This is the actual jump rope. It's got aluminum handles, super light, If you ever wanted to practice the double unders, that's where you jump and rotate the rope twice under you in midair. Very, very hard to do. But you would need something thin and light like this to do that. It has really smooth ball bearing action on here. Spins really easy. And really easy finger adjustment of these little screws if you need to adjust the length of the jump rope. So for $7, it's like buying 2 jump ropes. It's incredibly affordable. Why not have it? You can add a jump rope, 30 to 60 seconds of jump rope just at the end of a normal round of exercise with another piece of equipment. And you're going to majorly pump up your heart rate, your breathing rate, and you're going to really spike your body's metabolism, which is kind of the point of working out. One of the added benefits, shall we say. So pull up our jump rope. Okay. Now, for some of you might already have heard of or seen things like a battle rope. So these big thick ropes, kind of like braided nylon, and you can shake them and you can do all different. I have a list of that. I've actually seen YouTube videos with over 50 variations of exercises that, even though the arms are the only thing using the rope, there's over 50 variations of just that. And yet they figured out ways to incorporate lower body and core work into it. So it really can be a full body exercise, full body piece of equipment. Highly, highly beneficial. If you have a tiny, tiny gym, like one of my clients has like a 10 by 10 foot gym, you would think that there's nothing you can fit in there. But she has, it's in a basement. So she's got one of those metal columns, or I call it a pylon, that kind of runs from the floor to the ceiling. So that's something we can use as an attachment point for rubber tubing. We could wrap the battle rope around it. Battle rope, you need some sort of anchor because you're creating these waves throughout the rope. And as the waves travel away from you and down to the anchor point, they make the anchor point just slide up and down and bounce all around. So either someone has to stand on it, or you have to put a heavy weight on it, but you want to try to hold it in place to some degree. Excuse me. So battle rope. Now, battle ropes are, I've seen them pre-owned for $50 to $75 for like a 20 to 25 foot length of rope. They typically will have a nice hard rubber end cap on each end so that the things aren't going to fray apart. If you're willing to spend $50 to $75, I think it's a great piece of cardio equipment that would make a nice change from a lot of other things that are way more expensive. Bike, treadmill, elliptical. If you already have a bike, a treadmill, or elliptical, great, awesome. Definitely there's a lot that they can offer in terms of cardio. But battle rope, I think, is a little more fun and interesting, and it's still hella hard to use. You try 30 seconds moving as fast as you can with that thing, you're going to be exhausted at the end of that. Bosu. Show of hands, anyone have a Bosu? That's the one with the flat bottom and the round rubber ball half on top. Fun fact, Bosu is an acronym for both sides up. Now you know something new. So that is a piece of equipment that they retail for around $130. Definitely I would try and get something used on that, not new. That's just me. I don't use the Bosu that frequently, but there are a good 30, 40 or more exercises. There's 30 or 40 that I know of that you could do on the Bosu. But the reason I'm including Bosu in this list is because it does give you a good cardio style of training. Cardio training you can use it for. And a little bit of strength training. I think it tends to benefit cardio more, but that's in the limited experience I've seen using it. Okay, so some secondary use items. Anybody have a folding bench, weight bench? No one? Okay. Folding weight bench is a nice little addition to any home gym. There are, I'm not going to say what number of exercises you can do with a bench, but the bench provides some variation on the angle. So you can go incline, you can go flat, you can go decline on some of them. You can put your hands on the bench and hop your legs over and land on the other side. You can use it as a step up, like a very high step. And those are just a few exercises. One of the things I also like about the bench is that it's obviously more comfortable to lay on. You can do some core exercises on it. You can do, obviously, dumbbell, kettlebell work. The difference is if you're working with like a shoulder injury, you gotta figure, imagine if you will, I'm laying back on the bench. Okay, my chair is the bench right now. If I was laying on the floor would stop my elbow. If I'm doing a chest press, I'm gonna be stuck here. I can't go any further back, right? The floor is in the way. So elevating myself onto a bench, I am allowed to move my elbows a little further down. Now, as you're working with heavier and heavier weights, that becomes less and less safe for your shoulder unless you've got some serious safety training and some good stretching for your rotator cuff, strengthening of the rotator cuff, I would say instead. And so you can increase the range of motion on a bench versus working on the floor. But that's not the best thing for everyone. Again, so shoulder injury, you might not want a larger range of motion. In fact, if you limit the range of motion and stay on just the floor, you can actually go heavier without as much risk, because range of motion at a joint is a limiting factor on a lot of exercises. It's not just the weight. It's not just how much you're lifting. It's not just how fast or how slow. It's how far you're moving the limb and therefore the weight. How far does it travel? So, but bench still does offer a lot of different things. And if you're shy of a staircase, the bench makes a great step-up item. You can sit on the bench and hop up in the air. So a sit to hop. Just off the top of my head, those are a couple things. Now, moving on to barbells. Let me just jot this down. I had weight plates written down, but I didn't write down barbell. Barbell, weight plates, and rack. So you remember the 10x10 gym I mentioned earlier? So my client did a little digging on the internet, and there's a company out there called Titan.Fitness that sells fitness equipment. Most of it is very affordably priced, but well made. It's not like, the old saying, the cheap comes out expensive. This is actually quality stuff. And typically, not only is the equipment not that expensive, but you can get it shipped to you for little to no charge. I mean, there's probably a minimum. I think I ordered some medicine balls from them. But it's less expensive than a lot of other places. So check out Titan.Fitness if you're looking for brand new equipment with affordable equipment and affordable shipping costs. Moving on from there. So why did I mention that site? So my client was able to find a squat rack, an actual squat rack that folds flat against the wall. Okay, so imagine if you're on the ceiling looking down. These two things swing out from the wall like this. Here's your barbell. Your barbell would sit perpendicular across the thing. So when you're done working out with your barbell, you put the barbell away, and then the whole thing folds flush against the wall. So it only sticks out from the wall 3 inches, maybe. It's fascinating. So how do you lock it in place? There are really heavy-duty steel pins. The whole thing is steel, by the way. I should have mentioned that. It's not aluminum, it's steel. I think she got it for around $300. Now, this is obviously a bigger expenditure for a home gym, but if you like barbell work and you like squatting with a rack or doing other things with the squat rack, hopefully not curling, this might be a cool little addition that you could put in your gym because it doesn't take up a lot of space. That's the best part. So, folding rack. Barbells, of course, so a standard barbell is 6 to 7 feet long, or wide, long. They typically weigh 45 pounds, and they have a standard 2-inch diameter collar on the end for Olympic weight plates. Now, I happen to like bumper plates, which are metal plates that are coated with kind of a plastic, maybe it's rubber, plasticky rubber coating, so that if they're dropped, they make a little bit less noise and they bounce slightly. They're also a little more comfortable to hold than the metal plates. Now, when I do OCR training with people, I like to have less of a lip around the edge of the weight plate so that, here, let me just grab my weight plate real quick. Okay. All right, so this is 35-pound weight plate. You can see this has little holes built in. So if I wanted to do something non-traditional, I don't want to put it on a barbell, I just want to walk around and do a farmer's carry or suitcase carry with it, I can do that. But you can see there's like just a little lip here. This is less than a 1/4 inch high. All right, and not that I would try to pinch grip this, but something lighter like a 10 or a 15-pound, I might try to pinch and walk and carry with it because it's very, very stressful on my forearm and it would help me build my grip strength. So what I'm saying is the bumper plates are a little more comfortable to hold. They look nice, but they're going to be a little bit more expensive because I think you're going to have trouble finding them pre-owned. You might, but I think you're more likely to find older all metal or all steel weight plates, for assuming you're using them for your barbells. So just try to find a couple different weights, though, if you're going to get weight plates. You'll want at least 2 2.5 pounders, at least 2 5-pounders, at least 2 10-pounders, and then the rest typically will go in 25, 35, 45 increments. I'll leave that up to you. Now, if you're already using weight plates, whether or not you're using a rack, but you're using barbell, I discovered this great little tool. If you already have a barbell, there's a ton of other exercises you can do in something called a landmine setup. So with landmine, one end of the bar is anchored to the floor. Okay, the other end is on a sleeve that pivots at different angles. I'll show you because I happen to have one here. Okay, that's a landmine. It's got blue tape on it, so everybody knows it's mine. So this heavier weighted side, this is solid steel, goes in the middle of a weight plate that's sitting on the floor. Okay, the other end of the barbell goes inside the empty sleeve here, and it actually came with a screw knob that you can tighten it so the bar doesn't flop around or slide out accidentally. That could cause a problem. Anyway, you can see that it pivots at different angles, basically a little more than 180 degrees, and inside the middle of the weight plate, it can pivot on this axis as well. So with the landmine sleeve, we'll call this, these are about 35 bucks. I got a bunch of them on eBay. Amazon sells them too. You can then offload some of the weight of the barbell and just work with one end. So imagine if you will, that I'm holding the end of a barbell and it's in that sleeve, okay? It's now on this type of angle, right? As I push away, it's like this. Now, I'm not going to be lifting it straight up, obviously, because one end is always on the floor. So I'm not going to necessarily know how much weight it is. All I know is, do I want to add a weight plate to the working end that I'm holding or not? It all depends on the exercise. But again, there's a good 30, 40 exercises that I know of that you can do with Landmine. So a barbell, a sleeve, and some weight plates if you already have those. So the rack is just an extra thing at this point. It all depends on if you want to use that. But of the simpler equipment that takes up minimal space, here's basically the list. Is that backwards? I hope it's not backwards. Home gym build. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. It's backwards on my one camera here. So primary use for strength or cardio, we have sandbag, pancake, and rec bag. We have TRX or suspension trainer, kettlebell, physio ball, and pull-up bar. Then I added in battle rope for cardio and Bosu, mostly for cardio and a little bit for strength. Those are all primary use items in my mind. Then for secondary use, I added bench, weight plate, barbell, and rack. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear what other equipment you like to use already, even if it's not in your home gym. What do you use in your public gym that you really enjoy? That if you had some money to spend, what do you think you would spend it on? What would you like to put in a home gym if you were building it? Let's brainstorm a little bit and see if we can share some ideas on all the possibilities that are out there. Okay, I hope everybody's staying safe, and I'm still putting up free workouts every day. Some are more geared to Spartans, some are geared to people at home, and they're designed with home items in mind. They're called my home quarantine workouts. If you follow my YouTube channel, which is Brad Sims, you will see them there. And I'm going to kind of have a list at the beginning of what you will need. So posted one today, for example. It was, you need a 1-gallon jug of water, a staircase or a step stool, and a piece of rope or a dog leash. So 3 items, and you can do a 5 exercise workout. 1 round of it took 4 minutes, and the goal was to try 3 rounds. So questions, comments, concerns, please contact me on Facebook. You can also visit my website at bradsimscpt.com and shoot me a text or an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Love to hear those ideas. All right, have a great night, everybody.